Going to try something new today. I've thought about doing this for a while and held myself back for multiple reasons, but for whatever reason with the podcast, I just haven't had consistency with having people to come in to sit down, being able to actually do shows with guests. Part of that's been because I haven't had a good dedicated space, haven't been able to connect with people on timelines. I've found my own reasons to procrastinate for myself. I'm afraid of really trying to commit to something I believe in, because if I don't commit to it, then I can't fail, right? Anyway, so I've thought about using ChatGPT to generate me prompts and give me something to talk about, do like little talking head videos like this. But then I haven't done that because I'm like, well, people aren't going to take it serious because it's ChatGPT, it's using AI. It's like, well, okay, I think the way I use AI is fine. Yeah, I have my own problems with it. I've had to learn along the way ways that are not healthy to use it, ways that are healthy to use it. But anyway, so I just said, give me a topic to do a talking head video about, kind of a series I want to start, or maybe just a disciplinary practice. What you got for me? And lo and behold, it knows me pretty well. It said, stop trying to make the best decision, make a decision, then make it good. I'll go and read the rest of it. So here it says, talk about how endless options create paralysis with relationships, creative projects, buying gear, even deciding what kind of person you want to be. We imagine the right choice will remove uncertainty when usually commitment is what gives a choice its value. Opening line, I think I've wasted a lot of time trying to make the perfect decision when most good decisions only became good because you commit to them afterward. So let's get into it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of different places I could start with this, but let's just start, like, the whole point of me being afraid to use ChatGPT to give me a prompt to then me just kind of do a riff about why am I afraid of that? Because I mean, here's the thing. I had this realization today, recently. I don't know. I think I have had a fear of being weird my whole life. I grew up a Christian homeschool kid, and I was very self-aware that was like set up for failure almost, in terms of not being a weird kid. Like, all the Christian homeschoolers were pretty freaking weird. Not all of them, obviously. There was some good ones, but like, that community has a lot of strange people. And I didn't want to end up like that. And as far as I understood from being a kid, I was like, well, I have to socialize, I have to be around people, I have to be in public, or else I end up like these other kids that are just weird like their parents. No offense to any of these people, but you know, it is what it is. They're weird and they're happy, so let them be. But I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be weird. I also didn't feel like I ever had a lot of great friends as a kid. I felt like I was always like part of a friend group, but I felt like I was always the tag along, if that makes sense. I felt like I had to kind of, I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't necessarily preemptively invited to things. I felt like I had to kind of make myself become a part of things. I had to take a lot of initiative. Let's just put it that way. Anyway, I think I worried at times that I didn't have friends because I was weird. I worried that I didn't have friends because, for whatever this or that reason, could be many reasons. Then when I was 17, working at a summer camp, I remember this one guy who I think everybody would have agreed was a weird guy, not in a bad way. Everybody liked him, but he was definitely odd. And I remember one day he looked at me and he was like, "You sleep with your socks on. That's weird." And I was like, wait, you think I'm weird for sleeping with socks on? Like, all the weird shit that this guy would do, and the fact that I slept with socks on made me weird to him. And I bring up that example because I realized that resonated with me for years and years and years and years. It was like, oh my God, if people see me sleeping with socks on, then that means I'm weird. But then I had to think to myself, well, what is that? Why do I care? Because if they think I'm weird, then they don't want to be my friend. If they think I'm weird, they don't want to be around me. If they think I'm weird, it becomes negative. And I think that was a learned experience. I don't think I just pulled that out of nowhere. But I don't really know how this has anything to do with stop trying to make the best decision. I guess it's just that I've realized that this season of my life is me being trying to embrace my weird and trying to first of all figure out who my weird is, because I think I spent so long using weed and Xanax and things like that to dumb myself down, because I felt like I was too much for people. I felt like I was too intense. I thought I would laugh too hard, or I would get too anxious, or what, like either way I was just too intense for people, and I wanted I don't know, I wanted to magically make everybody like me. And I think the longer you try to go down that road, the more impossible you realize it is. You realize you can't make everybody like you, and that's not the point. Furthermore, people don't like perfect people. People don't trust perfect people, because anybody that's perfect is hiding something. So we don't trust that person, because what are we not seeing about this person that makes them seem so above everybody else? Like there's something missing in this puzzle. We like people that are imperfect, that we get to learn from watching through the ups and through the downs, and we see the kind of character that is revealed beneath the surface through the yin yang, right? Like we don't. It's like anytime something is perfectly linear, there's always this like subconscious fear of when does it end? This because we just know nothing is perfect forever. There's always an end to all good, right? All good things come to an end. This podcast is a great example too, because I started the idea of wanting to do a podcast because I realized how much I was learning and how much peace I was gaining from listening and watching other podcasts. How it was, again, back to the perfectionist thing, having an expert tell me this is the way things are, and this is the right way, and this is the only right way, always feels off to me, because it's like, there's no nuance in a statement like that. I want to understand, how did you get there, and how do I know if I can trust you, right? Maybe that's what it really comes down to, is how do I know if I can trust you? And through long form podcast conversations, people reveal a lot more about themselves in a 2 to 3 hour conversation than they will in a single 2-minute snippet, right? My favorite podcaster, Chris Williamson, the very first time I listened to him was on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO podcast, and I turned it off after like an hour, because I remember thinking, I just remember certain things about what Chris was saying was triggering me, and I was like, oh, you don't really mean that, or you don't really understand pain. I don't know, I had thoughts like that in my head. It was stuff within me that was getting tested from watching. That was something else I learned from podcasts. Quick side note, like Alex Hormozy is another one. I used to think he was such an asshole listening to him. I was like, this guy is just oversimplifying everything. He's got money, so he can talk like that. I realized that was early on in my own personal growth, I feel like, and I realized I was just triggered by a lot of things he says, because he, time and time again, comes back to, he does oversimplify things to basically say like, life is hard, so what? What are you going to do about it now? And when you're not really ready to accept full accountability for your life yet, that's really difficult to hear. And that's anyway. So Chris Williamson, I didn't really like him in the beginning when I first started. For the first conversation I heard from him, I don't know what brought me back to that conversation. I listened to the rest of it. I think it was like a week later, and I heard it through different ears. It didn't trigger me the same way, and I started to understand his truth better. And then next thing I know, I was listening to like every single podcast that he released on his own. And yeah, I just realized that I really enjoyed learning from people, because I kind of liked the fact that I could listen to somebody and get triggered and not agree with what they were saying, and then actually come full circle back around to trust them more than anybody else, because I'd seen enough and listened to enough sides of them to kind of have an idea of what I thought of them as a person, and how well I trusted their judgment. Because I think with long form conversation, again, it gives the opportunity to not just say a statement, but to explain the process that went into discovering that answer. Because at the end of the day, I've always been a guy that wants to know why. I don't want to just know something is the truth. I want to understand why is it the truth, because it may this forgive me for going down to another side note. Religion. I grew up my whole life just believing religion in a blind way, in a way that I was like just blind acceptance. And I wanted to ask why, and people wouldn't tell me why. And then when I was 18, and through psychedelics and other things, my mind was fully open to just the reality of the world and how much I really still didn't understand, and how much of my belief system and just concept of what the world was had hinged upon these, I don't know how to call it, but like these religious beliefs that didn't have any foundation to them. There was a house of cards that once you poked at my resolve and really asked me to get into the logic and science of some of these answers, there was none. And not to completely knock on that thing, because I think to some degree having some amount of blind faith is important, because yin yang, like you get too deep into this fucking hole of questioning everything, and that doesn't lead anywhere. That hole is bottomless. You don't get to the bottom of trying to understand reality. So I think there's certainly some merit to staying blissfully ignorant in some areas, or just maybe just calm acceptance. I don't know. Let's put a more positive spin on it. Let's just say it's just, you know, what is it? God give me the whatever peace to change the things I can, and or wisdom to know which things to change, and peace to accept the things that I can't change. Completely paraphrased, but y'all know the saying. So back to, I guess, again, make the decision the best. You really don't know how you're going to start. And I mean, I definitely procrastinated for a long time on the podcast, because back to Chris Williamson, his podcast, at least around the time that I came to watch it, was becoming a pretty high quality studio production with multiple camera angles, great lighting, in a studio, whole 9 yards. And off the bat, that's what I wanted to do. And I'm kind of the perfectionist in the sense that, like, I want it to be perfect, or I don't want to do it at all. But that's also that's like the kryptonite that'll stop a creator from ever taking the first step forward. And so I kind of forced one step. You know, I bought the mics, and then I used my iPhone as the camera, and I just sat down and recorded that. And to be honest, you know, I started this podcast idea like a year and a month or two ago. I don't know. I have to find the exact launch date. And I feel like I haven't gotten very far at all, because I haven't even done average of one episode a month. We've maybe done, I think maybe I've got like 10 or 11. But what I do have now is a space that I can dedicate to the podcast. Still need to get the proper table and chairs for here. I have a table and chairs I can use for now. But I have the 3 camera angles. I have 3 cameras now. I bought the ATEM Mini Pro thing from Blackmagic, so I can switch between the camera angles. So I can now sit down with somebody, record the podcast, have 3 camera angles, finish and upload. Shouldn't have to edit hardly anything. That was kind of I was trying to remove that step from the process, because that was really causing me to procrastinate heavy, was any thought of editing. So being able to have a finished product at the end of the conversation was important to me. So I've got that now. And I mean, honestly, along the way, you learn different stuff, because I didn't know what equipment I would have needed. And if you go right off the bat and you try to buy a full studio setup, you probably buy a lot of stuff that you don't end up needing. Instead, and even no matter what, you're probably going to buy stuff you don't need, but it's better to just buy one camera and then buy one tripod, 2 mics, because you need the mics, and then kind of build from there. And I mean, that's kind of what I did. It's a process that would be extremely overwhelming, where I had to sit down and try to do it all perfect from start to finish. Again, that's like one of my struggles, is wanting to do it perfect from start to finish. So we're working on that. But I don't know. I didn't even have the living space to make a dedicated podcast recording area before. So a lot of things have changed in the last year that have brought me to this point that I now actually feel like I have pretty much my full studio setup. And come tomorrow, I'm waiting on these micro HDMI to HDMI adapters that come tomorrow. Then I'm fully ready to fly. So next week will be the first 3-camera angle podcast episode, and my intention is we're going to keep the ball rolling. Like it's going to become a weekly thing now. I think part of me was held back just because I wanted to be a perfectionist, and but also I think I had a vision for how I wanted things to do, and I didn't really want to like dive in until I was ready. And now I feel like I'm ready to like I can get this steam engine moving more consistently now. We can actually build some momentum and keep it rolling. And truth, and let's get into the certainty of that, I guess, because a lot of that was money, a lot of that was an investment. Just buying the 2 mics at the beginning, that was like a big step for me. I was like, okay, because the mics were like $300 each or something, and I was like, okay, this is $600-700 with taxes and everything, and then I also bought the mic stands and a couple other things. So in total, we're looking at like probably $700-800 at least. For the initial investment to start this podcast. And I was like, this is not, that's not cheap, right? For something that, it's just not cheap. That's a commitment. So I did that. And then, knowing the entire time I wanted 3 cameras, but it wasn't until like, I think a month ago that I was like, dude, buy the cameras now. I had the money to buy the cameras months ago. All I had to do is prioritize it. If I had prioritized it, it would have happened. For some reason, it wasn't prioritized yet. Maybe the timing just wasn't right. And that's something I'm trying to learn to accept. So we waited and we got to this point, and I realized, my girlfriend has 1 camera I was able to use. So then I went on Marketplace. I found 2 more of that same camera, went and bought them on the same day. Kind of ramped everything up. I don't know, when the time is right, the time is right. If you asked me, why haven't you done more with your podcast yet? I would say it's my fault. I would say because I suck. I would say because I procrastinated, because I'm scared, because I get too distracted, because I can't stop smoking weed. I would give you a bunch of different reasons on why I haven't progressed farther with it. But maybe the truth is that it's just, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and this is all just divine timing, and just got to keep trusting the process. So, anyway, this is something I'm learning about being human today. Just trying to make a decision and make it right. I wish I had a better story for you to make that make sense, but perhaps on my zigs and zags as we wove through my mental tunnels of ideas, we figured it out. All right, y'all. Have a good one.